Mike. What is your thoughts on just the last 24 hours?
Yeah, it really sunk into me in the last 24 hours when I go, oh, yeah, I go through this every year. Duh. Uh, the off season is so full of it. Oh, I can't wait. And then when you finally get the first preseason game, you're at full frothing at the mouth, right? You are chomping at the bit, champing at the bit, if you like, ready for it to go. And then you come out and it's like, oh, yeah, it's preseason. That's right. I just hope nobody gets injured. And that's what you say to yourself. And then you got to come on here and, you and I aren't fake. We don't get hyped up fake, right? We don't do fake hype. If we're hyped up, we're hyped up.
Correct.
It's hard to be hyped up right now. I'm trying to tamp it down because September 8th just can't get here fast enough. Let's just make it through these last two preseason games, and let's get this season started in that run to the Super Bowl the Lions have been waiting 60 years for.
Yeah, and some of them might think that we're homers for thinking that, but you know what? I really don't care what people think, because this is the most hype that we have been in on any type of Lions team in forever. And one of the reasons is because we don't really have a lot of roster battles that are going to linger into the starting battles. So all of our battles have to do with guys that aren't going to be playing week one for the most part. And that's just something that we're not used to here when it comes down to it. But let's get into some of these injuries, because I got this a couple of the things just from the Lions front. He was on 97.1 The Ticket this morning. And I'm just reading a quote is, immediately 2 days ago, my phone is blowing up. This is what Dan Campbell says. I got all these people hitting me up. Man, what happened to kids? Oh, my God, it's done. All those reports are out. But I think that we're going to be fine there, all right. I think that we're going to be good. In other words, Gibbs, Arnold, Rakestraw may miss some practice time, but they should be good to go for week one, end quote. So, I mean, I know that we love to get people fired up on this show about like our injury-ridden guys that we have all the time, but usually it is like this. There's nicks, bruises, all kinds of stuff that happens during training camp, and thank goodness that Gibbs's injury isn't a lingering type of injury that's gonna like ACL. I saw all kinds of stupid reports that were out there trying to get people riled up about these injuries, and it's like, okay, we need to wait and let somebody that actually has a pulse on actually what's going on speak before we start jumping to any kind of conclusions.
Agreed. And the way things are shaking out, if these starters just don't play and don't practice too hard and they don't get hit, if we go into the season fully healthy, I mean, we're going to need that right out of the gate. You get 3 out of 4. You get the Seahawks, the Bucks, and the Rams. And then you got to go out west to Arizona, where they historically don't play well. It's going to be the toughest stretch of the whole season is going to be the first 4 games. Then you get a bye. Then you come back and got to play the Cowboys. So it's a tough stretch. So we're going to need everyone at full strength to win those games. Make no mistake about it. This is the NFL, folks. It's going to be tough. And let's just pray that we get through these preseason games with everyone intact.
Yeah, I mean, in your opinion, I mean, let me go through here first, because we have our faithful in here. Jeffrey Addison is present and accounted for.
Supervillain.
He's a supervillain. He is part of our Patreon group. If you want to be able to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/villain squad. You can support a couple knuckleheads with a podcast right here. We're just blue collar guys. We handle everything on the Facebook page, everything on the YouTube page. We don't have a crew. We don't have, licensed graphics artists or, famous people that come on our show or care about our show. So we just are just a couple knuckleheads that just love the Detroit Lions. We decided to start a page, and 52,000 villains later, here we are. Thank you to Elise Memes. The queen of memes says, good morning, Mike. how did you get that job in the massage room? She's in there. She's trying to get in there so she can work on some Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun
Yeah, I
god.
think she has
is in
different
there
motives
too.
than I do.
That's right. She wants to work on that hamstring. We don't we don't want to be pulling any muscles. Well, maybe she does want to pull. Never mind. Davey, one pride. It takes more grit. And on the way up, we're gonna bite a kneecap off. What's up from Chance Latt? It's time to bubble wrap, everyone, from Sarah, and she will segue perfectly into the other news right here, because I actually have good news for Sarah when it comes to at least my take on what everything we were talking yesterday. JJ McCarthy goes out with a torn meniscus, is going to require some surgery. And what are your thoughts on that before I try to lift her spirits up a little bit?
I think this might actually turn out to be a good thing. It now squashes any quarterback competition. They say if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Let Sam Darnold take control. Let him come out as the week one starter, and it. Let the whole team rally behind him. There's no controversy. Now, just as he starts to stumble and beat Sam Darnold, right? And we know that they're very thin in the secondary, so they could be looking at a rough go coming out of the gate. Just in time for JJ to heal, come riding in on a chariot with purple flowers being thrown at him as he's riding into U.S. Bank Stadium, and give them some hope to save the day. That's a tough break, though, for JJ to get a meniscus tear in a preseason game. It's what I would call an auspicious start to his career. And I'm kind of bummed out because I was looking forward to seeing the kid. Obviously, as a Michigan fan, I was looking forward to seeing him going out and proving his mettle as an NFL quarterback. But we're going to have to wait. What do they say a meniscus tear is, Russ? Like, is that 8 weeks, 6 weeks?
I'm not going to try to be a doctor. They keep on, every report that I see doesn't give a timetable, so I'm not going to pretend and be Dr. Russell Wayne. I mean, in the past, it seems like they have the surgery. It's like, 6 weeks, that type of injury. But I don't know. I don't know. I know that it requires surgery, and it says that he will be out for an extended period of time. And
I'm not going to lie. Dr. Russell Wayne has a nice ring to it.
Dr. Russell Wayne in here. But what I want to be able to do for Sarah, if she's feeling any kind of way, is to help her feel a little bit better, because albeit this might be bad for JJ McCarthy in his personal development, that as an organization, I think it takes some lingering questions right off of the gate, and it allows you to focus on what you need to focus on. And Sam Darnold was going to be your starting quarterback anyway. I don't want to like sugarcoat it outside of that. I think this really helps the mentality, them going in there where Justin Jefferson gets to practice with Sam Darnold exclusively. We're not worried about this competition anymore. The veteran's going to get to go out there, take the number ones, all of the number one snaps, get him ready to go. And he was your best chance to win games at the beginning of the year with JJ McCarthy healthy. So this does suck for JJ McCarthy, but this may actually end up being a better thing for the team long way, in the long game. It gives the opportunity for like Jaron Hall. You have Nick Mullins. You can put him on the injured reserve, the JJ McCarthy on the injured reserve, and then you could actually keep two other quarterbacks with Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins, and then you actually have more strength at quarterback than you once thought. You got Jaron Hall in there who's been in your system for an entire year. You can get more reps into him, and maybe he becomes trade bait down the road because you've developed another quarterback. So it's a crappy thing like in the right now for the Minnesota Viking fans, but I think that this is going to be a good thing in the long term for the franchise as a whole.
It's a great take.
So let's see what you guys think in there. Maybe I'm just crazy right here to think about that. There would be no pull. I'm not overreacting. JJ had a setback. It could have been a lot worse. We could have Drake May.
Hey, hold on, Sarah. Drake May is 20 years old. He's the youngest quarterback to come out this year. And if you watch his college tape, he's got a hell of a skill set. This kid's got a rocket for an arm. Don't undersell Drake May at this point. He's 20 years old, playing at the NFL level, and in a preseason game, he looked really, really bad. But they could be looking at a future star there when you look at his skill set and his size, and when you consider that he's only 20 years old, he's only going to get better. So I don't think people in New England are worried about that so much.
Oh, man. So Brent says, just got here. What happened to JJ? You probably heard that because I put that comment up late. So you know what happened to JJ. He got injured. Torn meniscus. Going to require some surgery. Crazy as a fox right there. And Sarah says, Cat had the same injury. He was out 8 weeks and then came back for the Timberwolves playoff run. Tom Brady had the same injury at 43. JJ will be fine. He's young. His body will heal faster. And that's a good point. That sounds about right.
That's Carl Anthony Towns, of course. Cat.
And I would say that it might actually be harder for Townsend to come back. I think that JJ might even be able to come back faster because you're not a running back, even though he does run with the ball, and he is kind of a dual threat. He's not depending on that. He's not making hard cuts on every single play, putting it right on that knee. So where an NBA player, that's all they're doing is they're cutting, turning, cut. So it may have taken Carl Anthony Townsend longer to come back from a meniscus tear than it would for JJ to do it. So maybe 6 weeks. You could probably get it. And his body's younger, right? So that's a good point. That's a great point there by Sarah. When's the Vike Queen podcast coming out? All right. Fred Peterson says, I know it's old news, but the Vikings receive compensation for using the young man that lost his life in the accident a few months ago.
Such a great question, Fred. I don't know. Kyrie Jackson loses his life in a car accident. Is that eligible for draft compensation? I mean, I'm not sure about that. It's not like it doesn't fall under a Rooney rule, right? Where you get a compensatory pick for promoting someone of color or something. So I don't, to my knowledge, it would be no, but I don't know, Fred. That's such a great point. Somebody might need to Google that, but I don't think so. I would say no.
You have the Google. I have the Google.
Google is your friend.
Google is my friend. All right, let's get in here. And that was I didn't see any other injury news. I know that the Packers were dealing with their first round pick too. Like a lot of the big names, man. That's like concerning. Maybe they're all just putting more injury reports in for this year because they don't want to play preseason anymore. I've noticed that all of the national outlets that actually have affiliations with the teams are all like they got this overall just this message they want to put out there that they don't like preseason. You see, more of these injuries are in here. Well, they might as well do away with preseason because it's not really doing anything for the game other than injuring all these good star players. Wow, Roger Goodell might have been right. I mean, I noticed that this narrative is on every podcast that has an affiliation. So I really think that the NFL's trying to push this narrative out there to try to get rid of preseason games so they can make more money on regular season games. So what do you think about that take, Mike?
Yeah, I've been saying it for a couple of years. Roger Goodell, when you hear these rumblings start, they start to pick up steam. Next thing you know, it's a new rule. You have the owners meeting twice a year in the offseason where they can make changes. However, the collective bargaining agreement doesn't come due again until 2030. So you still got 6 years before they can come to the table and Roger Goodell could push this through to get an 18-game season. But as you were saying, part of his trade-off on that is going to be he's going to do away with the preseason to appease the players, because he's not going to be able to push that 18-game schedule through the players' union without some give and take. He's going to have to give them more, which usually translates to money. And we know that the NFL, off of every Sunday, with 16 games going every Sunday, or 15 games going, whatever it is, 14 games, they are making billions. And that's a small trade-off to get rid of the preseason when most of these coaches and players think it's irrelevant anyway. I hate it, though. The preseason is great for kids to get to go. People who can't afford $300 a ticket can get some preseason games and get to go see Ford Field in all its glory when the Lions take the field. And it would be a shame if the preseason goes away in that respect, especially when you think back when you were a kid, maybe you got to go to a preseason game if you're poor like me and you couldn't go to a real game. Preseason game was everything as a kid. So it will be disappointing in that respect, but mark my words, Roger Goodell's going to get this 18-game schedule through sooner rather than later, and he's not going to wait for the collective bargaining agreement. They may call a special session of the of the players' union and the league owners to get together to talk about this specifically. Why? Because it translates into billions with a B. That's why. So it's going to be very interesting. Make no mistake, Roger Goodell wants this, and the preseason might just be a bargaining chip for him to use to get it through.
Yeah, and I think that to add on to that, and I think you're right. I mean, this is a very, very small trade-off when it really, you might have to have a 60-man roster that dresses because you added the extra game. You want the extra roster spot. Oh my gosh, you might have to pay the back end of your roster guys an extra 7 guys at $800,000. Might cost you $10 million a year and in the back end of the roster. Whoa. Well, so I believe in that too. And in all fairness, let's be honest, when you and I were kids, if you can remember back that far, the preseason was a little bit different, because it almost seemed like the preseason had more meaning to it as to the wins and losses. Now, all of these coaches and these GMs, they're paying these gigantic contracts. They don't want to put any of these guys out into preseason and risk injury. And look what's happening. And look what's happening. A lot of these top draft picks, getting dinged up, and they don't even want to put them out there. This injury report here with Jahmyr Gibbs and I'm looking at it with all these named players in my mind. I'm like, are these guys really injured, or is Dan Campbell trying to backdoor the fact that he doesn't really want to start his starters against Andy Reid, who always starts his starters? Well, I was going to start my starters, but I just decided not to because, they were dinged up a little bit. So I think that what's going to end up happening is right before Saturday, you're going to hear Dan Campbell say he is going to play some of his starters, but the ones that he really doesn't want to play are going to be, we better let him really heal from that injury. I'm not saying that they're not really dinged up, but I'm thinking that out of the 90-man roster, there's probably 80 of them that are dinged up, because that's what football is. They play dinged up all year. So they're holding them out. I don't think that there's serious injury on any of those things. And I think that you're going to see it play out on Sunday. I could be wrong. Call me out on it, Mike, on Monday when we come in if I was wrong. But I think that you might see something like this happen this week.
Right. I agree. Here's a great take by Paul Jones. Preseason is just film time for lesser players, right? The guys that are going to get cut, at least they can get in some preseason games. They get some tape, right? They get some tape of them making plays and showing what they can do in game time. I think that's such a great call out, something that I hadn't thought of about. That's going to be a casualty if the preseason does go away, is these guys, being able to use that. It's going to come right down to training camp for those guys now. So that's a great call out, Paul.
Here's a good point by Sarah that she just brings up is players are dropping like flies, and yet the NFL wants 18 games.
Right. We know CTE is a real thing, so let's increase the chances.
Yeah, but that's the talk, Sarah, right? This is what the big talk is. It's like, yeah, they want 18 games and they want to eliminate these preseason games where these guys are getting injured in games that don't mean anything. So really, they're kind of playing right into this narrative of protecting the players. And you're not really protecting the players. You just make it so, hey, if I'm going to go out there and risk injury, at least it's in a game that means something, right?
2 years ago, we had rumblings of them taking away the chain gang and going to make marking first downs and moving the chains digital, eye in the sky. And they rumbled about it 2 years ago. And then it started to pick up steam. And now here we see it coming into the league this year. You can say the same thing about the new kickoff. They rumbled about it 18 months ago. Then it started to pick up steam. Now we're seeing it. They go to the owners' meeting and they pass it. These aren't the kind of things they need the NFLPA's approval for. But an 18-game schedule, they absolutely will, and that's not going to come cheap. The players are going to want something in return for beating their body through a meat grinder for an extra week of the year.
Right. And I think that extending the roster is imperative for putting the 18 games in. You got to put at least 60 dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to go from 53 to 60 at least, if not 70.
Right. And maybe they can do away with this antiquated system that they have. Oh, 53-man roster, but you can only dress 48. It makes no sense. It's never made sense. It doesn't make sense now. And when I ask about it, the answer that I'm given is competitive balance, right? They don't want your team trotting out 53 or 48, excuse me, and my team trotting out 46. So it still doesn't make any sense to me. If you have a 53-man roster, why can't all 53 men dress and be available to you? Because if you get a guy who gets injured, well, now you've got 5 spots where you can still dress 48 and not have to put them on injured reserve and such. It still doesn't make any sense to me. What? So I've got 5 guys injured. I dress 48, you dress 53. Big deal. Add an 18-game schedule. Now you're going to be able to, like you said, Russ, add more roster spots. That 53-man now becomes a 60-man roster, like you suggested. And maybe they can just trim off the fat from these rules, which don't make any sense. Competitive balance, that doesn't make any sense. If your guys are hurt and my guys aren't hurt, hey, we all got the same number of roster spots. If I got a guy who's hurt, so I don't dress him and I bring a guy up from the practice squad and I dress him instead. Right. Where's the harm in that? It doesn't make any sense. It's never made sense. And maybe this is the way we can at least get through that rigmarole and make a change there.
And, there's some stuff that it's like, I like the fact you want to change things to make it safer. I get all of that. But it's like, it seems like with every great rule that they bring in, they got to bring in 2, like, what the hell really this kickoff rule? Are you watching this thing? Like, this thing is I hope it doesn't ruin the season. Like, I keep on looking at this. I am not too optimistic about this kickoff rule coming in and being something that I'm going to like. Like, I see it ruining games more and creating weird advantages and disadvantages for teams to where it may take the element of winning the football game away. Oh, wow, you got a long touchdown. Oh, something happened during that play that nobody knows anything about, and it completely changed the complexion of the game. And it's like, people aren't understanding the rule of it, and there's a lot of confusion on it. And I think that's the biggest question mark I got going into the season all around. Like, I'm
on the opposite end of the spectrum from you. I am optimistic about the new kickoff rules.
Okay.
I really am.
Talk about it.
I think when the season is over, they're going to measure the injuries. They're going to look at those metrics, and they're going to say, wow, injuries were down, scoring was up, touchbacks are down. And those are the 3 prongs of this whole initiative that they're trying to get through to eliminate the boring touchbacks. We're seeing guys kick it out of the end zone on every kickoff, every game. It's boring. It's going to create more excitement and probably less injuries because these guys don't have a 30, 40-yard running start to crash into somebody at 265 pounds. It's also going to come down to your special teams coach. It's new ground for him to be able to show what he can do, he or she, I should say. We have Dave Phipp, one of the best in the business in Detroit. He's very innovative. And we also have Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach, one of the best in the business on teaching blocking. He was a longtime pro, Super Bowl champion. He knows what it takes. And when you've got guys out on the coverage team that are defensive players, they may not be well versed in blocking on some of these other teams. The Lions are going to cover that base. I'm excited for it. We have dynamic guys like Khalif Raymond and Jamison Williams back there that one arm tackle and you're gone. They're gone. And I just think it's going to be exciting. I'm excited for it. And it's only on a one-year trial basis here in the NFL. So let's see how it works out. I'm excited. I think it's going to stick.
I love that take, man. I actually kind of got fired up while you were just, talking about that right there. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think that's what it'll come down to. I guess if you're scoring a bunch of touchdowns and it's helping your team win a whole bunch, you're going to be like, wow, this is the greatest rule ever, Mike. We're scoring and kicking people's ass. And then the other team that's getting scored on and it'll be like, this rule is stupid. Stupid rule. Can't believe it, guys. Dropping it. What was this, XFL? It's not working out for my team. Like, I think that's what you're going to see. And I'll probably be that way. Either way. I mean, if week 4, if Jamison Williams has 4 touchdowns based off this new kickoff rule, and I'm going to go, hey, Mike, you're right. This ain't too shabby. Oh gosh. So I'm glad to know that some of these Lions injuries aren't super bad. Like there's nothing that is going to really linger into the season from what they're talking about. Now the official injury report hasn't come out yet, but Dan Campbell did go onto 97.1 the ticket today and just said everybody's going to be fine. It's like they're not going to linger into the season. So that's what leads me to believe this conspiracy theory that Dan Campbell is having these guys be all 4 of those guys have I don't want them to play in preseason game injuries. And I don't know if they're going to stick through the regular. Hey, looks like they're going to be ready just in time for the regular season. Go figure. Oh gosh. GM, my Lions brother.
That's good morning.
I'm so football oriented. I'm like, GM, which one of us is the GM, Mike? Good morning. I'm such a football
general manager, my Lions brothers.
General manager, my Lions brothers.
If he puts TY for thank you, you're going to think it's Ty Chandler. That one's for Sarah.
Oh, we are in the dog days of summer. I was watching Locked On Lions with Matt Derry, and I love this. How he calls us the dog days, and it makes you understand because we're past the point of we got. Oh my God, we're so excited! It's preseason. Oh, it's just preseason. Oh, it's just preseason. And nothing's going to change for the next week and a half. A couple of guys might get injured or the bottom end of the roster might change for a couple of teams, but we're really not going to have a lot of worthwhile news. Mike, they made a couple signings. Do you have a cornerback signing? Do you have that?
Yeah, his name is Isang eBay, S.A. I can't remember. I didn't write it down. He's just going to be a camp body. We got these guys that are getting banged up a little bit. So we're going to need people out there to play these preseason games. So they're bringing in guys, giving them a look. From what I'm told, Jeremy B told me he's just a camp body. I couldn't even find anything on him when I looked it up. So, and then the show was starting, so I didn't have a chance to follow up. So I don't think it's anything worth noting, but they did waive Deron Gilbert to make a roster spot for this person, which was a bummer. Ukwu showed out in the preseason game. He plays linebacker, and I thought Deron Gilbert played really well. He was all over the field. They were calling his number all the time. I at least thought Deron Gilbert would make it to the end of the preseason before he got cut. He's a Detroit native, went to Eastern Illinois, or Northern Illinois, I should say. And I was really rooting for him, but now he's been cut to make room for this corner. Now that our corners get nicked up, they need another body in there. Raj Nish in the house.
Green Bay down. Detroit. He comes in and just like does the Tasmanian devil move, where he's just like, "Hey, everybody!" Like he uppercuts all the other teams and like, all right. But hey, Raj Nish, it's like, you know what? One of my good trolls for the Chicago Bears. I love it. I love having Raj Nish in there. And anytime I get a Green Bay Packer troll, I like to use I like to use like guys like Raj Nish and the Chicago Bears as part of my troll back to them, being like, hey, Green Bay, don't worry about Detroit. You should worry about Chicago, who's coming to kick your ass for the first time in 5 years. You should be worrying about, I mean, I know that we want revenge. You know, you want your team to do really, really well, but, you know, and you should worry about the Detroit Lions, but you should really worry about the Chicago Bears, because not only did their team get better, but they dislike you worse than they dislike us. I mean, I don't know, Rashnish, you can say that. Rashnish, which team do you hate more, Green Bay or Detroit? So that's what Green Bay should be worried about. 53 men on that Chicago Bear team that want to eat the Green Bay Packers for lunch. They are starving for a victory in Lambeau or Soldier Field against the Green Bay Packers. Like, I'm actually happy that the Chicago Bears, I'm past the point where they beat us, and I'm like, and I've dealt with it. And I've dealt with it, and I'm happy that you don't have that sweep anger that you have against the Green Bay Packers that you're going to have against us. You're not going to be as mad against us as you are against the Packers, because they put it to your team 10 times in a row. You like that. You like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. Oh, God, that's got to suck. Get your ass kicked over and over again. I know what that's like. I'm a Lions fan. We lost 11 games in a row in 21. I know what it's like, man. I feel it. Green Bay with a passion. You see, we can agree on this show. Hallelujah. We can have an agreement on this show. It's such a beautiful thing to know that we can hate Green Bay with a passion. Oh, man.
Can we pull up Jeffrey's comment there? Bad news, according to many of the articles that I've read on Facebook, many of our Detroit Lions have died in multiple plane crashes and car crashes. Man, Jeff, I feel you there, buddy. It's so frustrating. Some of these groups on these Lions groups on Facebook, they allow these scammers, they allow this clickbait into their group. And it's like, I just, tragic news. I just keep scrolling right there because it's just clickbait.
Right.
It's horrible. And now there's this deep fake going on where you can recognize it. The first one that I saw had Brandon Ayuk calling Taylor Swift a fugly witch. And I was like, wow, did this dude really say that? And I start Googling and researching him. No, it's just a fake. And now this guy's picking up steam with his deep fakes. And now he's got all of them going out. They got Mike McDaniel saying we're going to win the Super Bowl, all kinds of stuff. Know how to identify this stuff, folks, and just keep scrolling. And if you're a member of these groups and you're sick of it, go over and join our group where Jeffrey Addison and myself and Russell, we keep the group clean of scammers. Sometimes they get through, but we delete them immediately when we find them, when we ban those people. It's called Lions Main Event, MANE, Lions Main Event. That's a group on Facebook. We just reached 20.5 thousand members of the group. I'm really fed up with all the disinformation. Now, we might put up a meme or something, right? Obviously something that's fake and tongue in cheek, but it's not trying to be passed off as real. Okay. Something that's funny, something obviously is not real. But I don't know where some of these people get off trying to say that Jared Goff's wife died. Things like this to get you to click on it. There's a special place in hell for those people, I feel like. And I'm sick of it, Jeff, and I'm glad that you brought it up.
And I'm glad that you brought that up right here. This is what the page looks like when you go there, Detroit Lions main event. And Jeffrey, you do a fantastic job. I mean, I don't know, like, we've been friends through Facebook, through this group for a couple of years right there. And I had no idea what attribute you were going to be to the Villain Squad's page in this group when I made you a moderator. And that's what it is. Like, people that are engaging, that are putting up good content on these platforms, I'll make you a moderator. And I had no idea you were going to work out that well, Jeff. And I think you do a fantastic job at keeping all those scammers out of there. And if you are a member of the group already and you see something that goes up there that we miss, feel free to reach out to us. We'll get rid of that stuff so fast. And if you're interested in being a moderator on there, just let us know, because we can use all the eyes and ears. I mean, the more the group grows, the more help that we're going to need, because you can't tell who's going to be a scammer. Fake profiles come in all over the place. They're going to try to, sell you tickets, or they're trying to sell something. We're not going to allow anybody to sell anything on our page, for one, because it's our page. And if we're going to sell something, we want to sell something. Buy the stuff from us. like that's our, when we put links out there. So if it doesn't come from us, then it's not real.
Right.
So I appreciate that. So,
and the best thing about the best thing about groups is, for those that don't know, you can't post on a page. You can comment on a page, but you can't post. In a group, you can actually post your thoughts, your take, your opinion,
right,
put it out there, get engagement on your takes. And then as the page, we can go to the group and share it to the page when it's a good take. And nothing excites us more than being able to share a good take from our group onto our page. So it's Lions main event. Go over there and let your voice be heard.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then a couple of them, like Elise Memes and then Steve McMania, they're making good content. So good that we actually made him a moderator on our page. And then that gives them an opportunity to push their, memes and their creations out to our 52,000 people, which helps their page. And it's like, I love the community that we have of Lions fans. And we're not that big. Like, honestly, 52,000 people, most of them are just Lions fans, and they don't really care about, me or Mike. They're just Lions fans. But we do have a nice little group of people that love coming up here in the morning, talking some football from all three of the fan bases. I love having them in here. Joseph says simple Google search, and you can save yourself a lot of grief. Yep. And these scammers have made us take an extra step that Joseph is talking about. Yeah, you can dispel a lot of these spam things by just going to Google, but I'd rather just go to a group that already took that into consideration. That way I don't have to worry about going to Google. I know that the information that's coming out on that page is going to be good, And Roshni says, and don't sell us a toilet Lions Super Bowl. We don't have to sell it to you. It's just going to happen. And there's really nothing that you can do about it, And it's like, no one's going to take this NFC North title from us. Not because you're not good enough. It's because we won't let you. I think that there's 3 teams that are good enough to win this division, in this division. Unfortunately, only one of them is going to, be the last one standing. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. Oh, gosh, I had a good one there. Brian Stover says, if we start the season Sunday, who wins Lions versus Rams? I don't know. I wouldn't know that because I don't know how serious these injuries are. Like, if you're telling me we're starting the season, and we are starting the season without Rakestraw, we're starting the season without Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and Kevin Zeitler, and all of the guys that had been injured. We don't know if they're injured. If we start the season without all of those guys, the Rams are going to beat us. It is what it is, right? You miss that many of your front end starters, Mike. I mean, who's gonna recover from that?
Well, the Rams are beat up on the offensive line. So if they played this game Sunday, I think the Lions win. DraftKings has the Lions favored on September 8th by 3.5 points. So they're already the favorite out of the gate for week 1. But I think if it started this Sunday, we are healthy and in a better spot than the Rams are. So I think we would definitely cover that 3.5 point spread if we were to play this Sunday. On September 8th, I'm not so sure because they'll have plenty of time to get their offensive line back in shape. And that's going to be the real difference. I thought that was the real difference in the playoff game. They could not run the ball in the red zone. So they had to settle for field goals while we went down and got touchdowns. We only won by 1 point, folks. Jack Fox is the best punter in the game. Jack Fox should have been the MVP of that Rams playoff game. Matt Stafford had to start every drive inside of the opposite red zone. And when they got down into our red zone, they would stall because they could not run the ball in the red zone against us. So Jack Fox, the unsung hero of that game. And it was a close one, a nail biter for sure. It never felt like the Lions were going to lose that game, though, did it? It felt like we were in control of the game the whole time. So great call out, though, Brian. Love it.
It is. And like I said, it depends on our injuries. Like if that injury report came out for Sunday and we are missing all those players, Mike, I don't know, even them would beat up. Like we were missing Laporta, Gibbs, Zeitler, and Terrion Arnold, Rakestraw.
But Zeitler and Reader are the only two guys that really wouldn't play if it was Sunday because Dan Campbell said it. These guys they'll be fine. They're going to be fine. They'll be ready.
By the season.
But I believe that these guys are ready. I mean, Hendon Hooker might not be ready.
You see.
Actually, didn't they say Hendon Hooker would be ready for the Chiefs game? They did clear that concussion protocol.
Here you go. Campbell was naturally asked of quarterback Hendon Hooker, who had entered concussion. This is from the sideline report right here. Brad Berryman said being injured for the Sunday's game, would he play? And he said, I think so. He said, quote, I think so. I think there's a good chance. I think he can. Absolutely, yes. But I think it's trending in the right way. Right. So that's what, end quote. There you go. So they're expecting him to be able to play on Saturday. But you still have to go out and get Jake from State Farm to come in and learn the playbook just in case you need a body out there to run some plays. But I'm not looking at any type of big signing in that quarterback spot. And that's what I told you the other day, Mike. It was like it really tells you how serious they are about that second quarterback position, because if they really had that big of a question mark on Hendon Hooker, don't you think they would have went out and signed Tannehill? Don't you think they would have made a trade for a guy that that has NFL experience? Don't you think that they would have done that this week? They won't wait till next week, would they? I mean, to go into the season if they really felt good about Hooker?
I think that the Ryan Tannehill thing sounds sexy and everything, but what has been Brad Holmes' mantra through all of this is the right guy, right? The right fit, the right character. Let's take a look 2 years ago when Malik Willis was drafted. And Ryan Tannehill came right out and said, hey, I'm not mentoring him. They don't pay me to mentor anyone. Is that the mentality the Detroit Lions have built this team on? I don't think so. So as much as I'm pining for it, you're pining because it sounds sexy. The people on the inside know what's up, and that Ryan Tannehill might not be the right fit. He went to Texas A&M. So did Dan Campbell. Maybe Dan Campbell has intimate knowledge of this guy that we don't and knows that he's not the right guy. Otherwise, they should have ran out and signed a veteran QB 2 weeks ago, in my opinion. Now the Hendon Hooker concussion just heightens that. Believe me, this Jake Fromm signing, is because of that. They need another guy to trot out there because Sudfeld ain't going to do it. You can't put Nate Sudfeld out there for 3 whole quarters. It would just be disastrous. So I think they're behind the scenes. They are making a plan. And I've said it for a couple months now, and I stand by it. They will bring in a veteran quarterback to sit on the bench behind Goff at some point.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Like, I mean, the thing is like, I think that the Lions say stuff without saying stuff, and this isn't my opinion. This is just kind of like the thought process I think that they're in. Because if what you're saying is true, Brad Holmes is a good GM, Mike. Like, if what you're saying is true, he should have did it a couple weeks ago. That you don't want to get caught with your pants. If they were going to do it, they would have did it, because Brad Holmes was a good GM. The fact that they brought in Jake Fromm, State Farm, that shows me that they are good with Hendon Hooker and his development, that they have trust in what he's been doing in practice, the stuff that we don't see. So that, to me, that's just telling a story. It's not my opinion. It's just something I feel inside, that if they were going to do it, they would have already pulled the trigger on that. And one of my favorite Packer fans in the whole world, Mark Elmore, is preseason priming of the excuse train.
You know it.
We're trying to get the excuses out of the way right away. Yeah, we love Mark Elmore. I mean, you can count on him to be on most of the Lions Villain Squad posts. You got to make sure they're really good posts, because if they're not perfectly grammatically correct and everything right there, Mark Elmore will come in and tell you all about it. It could be the most brilliant post ever. Don't miss an apostrophe. Don't miss a E at the end of the sentence or anything like that, or a T. Like, I got busted on a post yesterday where I was saying, I asked the fan base which game that you want the most revenge on. And I meant to say the Lions aren't the only team that have revenge on their thing. And I didn't have the apostrophe T at the end. So it said R. The Lions are the only team that has revenge games. And he called me out on it. And I had to switch. I switched it very, very quickly.
Yeah. All the Packer fans, I feel like he's the most literate.
And he sure is. And he called me out on it. And if I was really saying that, I would have called my own post lame. If I said that we're the only team that deserves to have any kind of revenge games, that would be like a Bear post. That would be like, yeah, 15-2. We got a quarterback. Okay, you're going to be better, but come on, man. Let's a Super Bowl year 1.
We appreciate you, though, Mark. We appreciate you engaging on our comments on our posts. I want you to know that. I don't like your team, but I like you. So appreciate it.
And you can tell he's not from Green Bay. You know, like sometimes the coolest Green Bay Packer fans are not from Green Bay. They're fans from other states.
Right. Well, the cheese on his head would melt down there in the Carolinas.
That's right. That's right. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand how the cheese is going to. Anyway, Fox. Brian Stover is agreeing with you that Fox is great. And it is the excuse train, but this is what we call the dog days of summer, Mark. The dog days of the training camp, because here we are. Here's this train, right? Yeah, preseason is here. Woo-hoo, yeah. Oh, God, it's just the backups.
How crazy you said that. Can you hear the train whistle in the background here? How crazy is that? You said, here comes the train, and it went toot, toot, right on cue, buddy.
And then we got 2 weeks of, trying to report to you, a guy that wasn't going to make the roster, that isn't on the team anymore, a guy that isn't going to make the team, replaced him on that 90-man roster. And I got to tell you about him. And we got to look these guys up. And it's like when 90% of your team is already set, from the starters and the backups. And it's like, what are we really talking about, Mike? We're talking about a number 4 wide receiver. We're talking about the 7th offensive lineman coming off the bench that we're having a battle for. We're talking about running back number 4, number 3, the battle between those two. The intriguing one is the cornerback room, because there's a lot of moving pieces right there. So there's one intriguing thing that we like to look at. And then last preseason game gave us an entire 3 series with those guys. And then we went back to the, 4th, 5th cornerback battle. Ooh. Oh, how about the 4th safety, Mike? How about that? Let's talk about it.
Well,
let's talk about the 4th and 3rd and 4th tight end. Is it James Mitchell, or is it Shane Zylstra, or is it undrafted free agent Nice? Oh God, it's so much excitement for these guys.
Now that you mention it, the 4th safety, since you did say the 4th safety, a guy named Brandon Joseph, who tried to make the team last year and was relegated to the practice squad. He had an interception in the preseason game. He's had 2 picks in 2 days in training camp. One of them was off Goff. So this guy making a case. He made a strong case last year, but didn't make the team. Now we might see Brandon Joseph make this team. I think it might come down to how he plays on special teams. You've got Khalil Dorsey back there. You've got Stephen Gilmore back there. These guys all fighting for a spot. And Brandon Joseph, who is a natural safety, a lot of people rooting for this guy, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like those, like Emmanuel Mosley was the biggest surprise in the preseason to me, and then it was the biggest surprise. It was like the biggest surprise and then let down so incredibly quickly. Going into preseason, Dorsey and Brandon Joseph were on my list because they needed to be. Right? Those were where the battles were, because I didn't think Emmanuel Mosley was going to be there. Who's going to be that 4th and 5th cornerback that, that was predicated off of a guy that can play cornerback and slot corner and safety. The most versatile piece was going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden, Emmanuel Mosley shows up and starts rapping with the ones. I'm like, what? Oh, wow. And then he was gone as quickly as he came in. But now my mentality is back to where it was before camp even started. And I didn't think we were going to see Mosley until week 8, where I'm like, who's going to win that backup job? And Brandon Joseph got a glowing response from Dan Campbell in saying how these guys are developing. These practice squad guys that have been with us since 2021, these are the guys that are creeping in the back end of our roster, and I absolutely love that, because it's drafting and developing, and or bringing in undrafted free agents and developing, instead of, oh, we need to go get Daniil Hunter and pay him a whole bunch of money to play. Like, instead of that, we're falling back on, let's get these guys in and have them learn the system, and then in 2 or 3 years they might be popping up to our roster and making contributions on the team. And I think that's what you're seeing. Joseph was 2021, wasn't he? I mean, he was an undrafted free agent from 21 or 20.
I thought.
Or was it 22? So one of those developmental dudes that were on the practice squad. And I think Mark Elmore that's what Wilson, their running back, was like that too. Just a guy that just hung around on your practice squad, and all of a sudden, like, oh, okay, he's pretty good. Not the high-end guy, but all of a sudden he's making it on your team because Green Bay knows how to draft and develop.
Yeah, and last preseason, Emmanuel Wilson, the running back for Green Bay, showed out in the preseason. Then he got an ankle injury, and he never made it on the field in the season. So he's showing out again in this practice. So A.J. Dillon is hurt, right? Didn't he get A.J. Dillon got hurt? So that might open up now for Emmanuel Wilson, who's a bigger back. And now that you've got Josh Jacobs in there and you've lost Aaron Jones, and now you're going to lose A.J. Dillon for some sort of time, that could open up for Emmanuel Wilson. And this kid's scary, man. For a big man, he is so fast. So I thought last year that he was going to be a diamond in the rough for them, but was not to be.
Jeffrey says, I've been rewatching last season's games, and it took a while to present the team that we became. He we had to start over. Unfortunately, we are starting over with bigger talent.
Right, and he's obviously tipping his cap to the moves that Brad Holmes has made in the secondary. We've got more talent on this defensive side now. Moving Zeitler in on the line, he's going to play. He might not make it for the season opener now with this injury, but he's definitely going to be an integral part of that offensive line for the season. Yeah, I love that call. We're starting over with bigger talent. And we were 12 wins last year, and we got more talent this year. So pardon us, Mark Elmore. Pardon us, Rajneesh, for beating our chest a little bit because we've been your punching bag for 60 years. And here's an interesting thought. How long will it take for the Lions to come in last place in this division? I think it's going to be years before we are at the basement again. These things run cyclical, right? Except for the Packers. They seem to never finish in the basement. They haven't since they won the Super Bowl. They haven't finished fourth in this division.
Right.
I mean, it was the early 2000s the last time they came in fourth place in this division. So
that's crazy.
I think we're moving towards Packer-esque type of roster building and fluid salary cap where we've got new talent coming in to replace the old cap talent that expires on their contract. The Detroit Lions are going to be a problem in this division for at least 10 years. That's my take.
Yeah, and that's the truth. And that's the thing where the Packers have the leg up on the Chicago Bears. Like, I don't care how many guys you got, Chicago Bears. You haven't proven that you can win games with your coaching. You haven't proven that you can draft and then develop those guys. You're bringing in these really awesome pieces that are coming in and individually doing well, but you're not functioning like a team for an entire year. You got spurts. You won 7 games last year, okay? And you did it. And I know that everyone says that Justin Fields, oh yeah, it's because Justin Fields was bad. Justin Fields makes plays with his legs that nobody else will make. Okay, so you had that element no matter what. Now Caleb Williams is different. He's way different. He makes his plays different. Going to make his money different, and he will probably be a better quarterback for you guys. And I've been on record to say that. But Green Bay has a track record of drafting and developing players. You don't. Now I would say long term that the Lions don't have a track record for drafting and developing well. Only under Brad Holmes. The only track record I can give us that is good is from when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell got here. Nothing really before that. There were spurts here and there, but not good coaching. Something was amiss at all of the different eras that I've ever watched Lions football until now.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think a big part of – go ahead, Russ. Sorry.
Drafting and developing is a very, very important thing. It's more important than the free agents that you sign in the offseason. Mm-hmm. But go ahead, Mike. That was the.
I think a big part of that is in the past, before Brad Holmes got here, bad GM moves, overpaying for free agents, drafting poorly, drafting for need, which is something the Lions always did. Terry Fair, I'll give you that one. We had no secondary, so it was a very bad secondary draft. We took Terry Fair. Drafting for need, reaching for players, overpaying free agents. Those are the hallmarks of the Lions front office for my entire life, right? You'd make a great draft pick in Chris Spielman, but then you'd miss for everyone else in that class.
Right.
And it seems to be the opposite with Brad Holmes. He hits in late round draft picks. This is how the Niners have risen to power, by hitting on late round draft picks. You got guys on rookie contracts that are frontline starters for you that you drafted in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. To Chance Lax makes a good point here that Mekhi Wingo might be one of those players. No idea how he fell to the 6th. I love this player. He's got the same measurables as one of the greatest D tackles in history, John Randall, for the Minnesota Vikings. They always said he was too short, this and that. But playing D-line's all about pad level, getting low, getting leverage, and this guy's strong as an ox. He could be a diamond in the rough. This could be a future John Randall coming into Detroit, and it's just indicative of what we're just talking about, a 6th round draft pick. He's not going to see the field a whole ton this year, but as we develop him, he could turn into a beast. He has all those things. He wore number 18 at LSU, which is reserved, by the way, in case you don't know. Not just anybody can go in and get number 18. In fact, Justin Jefferson never got to wear that number in college. He had to wait till he got to the pros to get it, because it's such an honor to wear that number at Louisiana State. And he got to wear that number. It is a mystery how he fell to the 6th round, especially when you watch the tape. He is a dog on the D-line. Nothing but great reports from him so far out of camp. And this is just another indicative of what we're talking about. A late round draft pick that could develop into something like you're saying, Russ, like the Packers do. They took Carl Brooks a couple years ago, a guy a lot like Mekhi Wingo, a lot of the same measurables, and he's starting to show out. And he's an integral part of their defensive line rotation now, just coming into his 3rd year.
Right.
So definitely a good call out by Chance.
I love Mekhi Wingo. I love that pick. And Brad Holmes has been picking different type of players. And one of the things, I don't know if it was Brad Holmes that said it. I remember watching an interview about the draft, and it's like when you pick these guys, when they use the word pro ready, that is a negative to a guy like Brad Holmes, because you know what that means? That means I'm going to have to unteach you some shit, because we run stuff a little bit differently here. Brad Holmes goes to get the physical freak, the guy who might not know as much, but he's got something that nobody else has. I can teach you. Like we're like the ultimate, like the women that go get the guy that has the 6-pack abs, and it's like, I can change him. That's what that Brad Holmes drafts. All of his draft picks are like that. I can change you. You run faster than anybody. You come around that bend quicker than anybody. You got lower pad level. You do that at a rate that no one else can do it, but you don't know how to play football yet. I can change you.
And we do have a segment we're working on for a future show about those maybe 4 or 5 guys that Brad Holmes has drafted. 22% of all of Brad Holmes' draft picks have made a Pro Bowl. That's not just good. It's historic. It's unheard of. No GM in NFL history has had 22% of his players become Pro Bowlers in the first 3 years. It's unbelievable. And there are still guys on the list that have a chance to add to that.
So, yeah, and you're right, Mike. And that is going to be the segue to end our show today right here. Brad Holmes. This is what we're going to talk about tomorrow when we get on this program. Brad Holmes preseason. 4 guys that we gave up on, that if Brad Holmes hits on these 4 guys after everybody that he's hit on, right now, Brad Holmes is at a historic pace of Pro Bowlers, guys that he drafts that make a huge impact on teams. There's 4 guys that we're going to talk about tomorrow that aren't on anybody's list, that if they do hit, that Brad Holmes is in one of one.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of one.
Third-year jump is a real thing in pro football. And we have some players coming up on their 3rd year getting ready to make that jump. And those are going to be players we're looking at. And like the graphic said there, 4 guys that we gave up on. Maybe we didn't give up on them, but we gave up on the thought of them being Pro Bowlers. I've done a at this point last year was one of those guys. And we saw what he did down the last 6 games last year, and he's coming on strong.
All right, we are tabling that conversation for tomorrow. Don't be giving them any hints on who these guys are, but I know that I've done bus talk on all of these guys. We've had bus talk. We've had a slew of Lion fans in here already calling these guys bus, but that's not what we're talking about anymore. This is the preseason preview. This is the Villain Report every morning, 10 a.m. And I'm here to tell you guys that this is about faith, family, and football more than anything else. As much as we love talking football and we love, trashing on the Packers, like, we don't care that you follow a crappy team. We want the best for you. If you're listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, I want you to be blessed. Mike wants you to be blessed. We want you to succeed in your goals. We want you to use football. Faith, family, then football, in that order. We want you to use football to create memories with your family, to enlighten or heighten your life, to have some things that you can do with your family that you can look back on.
And I got to bounce. Have a great day, villains.
So faith, family, then football. And I leave every one of my broadcasts with the blessing over your life, because I think that's more important than anything else. May the Lord bless you, and may the Lord keep you, and may the Lord shine his face upon you until we meet again tomorrow for the Lion Villain Report. Peace out.
Make it hopeless, so it seems. Eyes closed, candles open wide to embrace your dreams. Sometimes you gotta take a loss just to get the win. Like lots of sin was popping in like oxygen when boxes wet. Focus on the mental, never lose like a smooth instrumental. Better choose on the move in a pinto. Choose what I get to, never lose, move on the move, but it's simple. Never give up and we running it, maybe. We just keep winning, we conquering daily. Envision that pay me, it's never this way. We indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity. Your opportunity, it's your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, it's your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, it's your opportunity.